Hello, and welcome to another episode of Intelligent Pod. I'm your host, Sophie Lane, and today we're diving into a topic that sits at the crossroads of technology, work life, and ethics. A topic that's reshaping not only how companies operate, but also how we as individuals experience our careers. That's right. Today we're talking about the ethics of AI in hiring and employee monitoring. AI is transforming the workplace in ways we couldn't have imagined even a decade ago. From software that screens job applications to tools that track productivity or even analyze employee sentiment, artificial intelligence is changing the very nature of HR, and it's raising some big ethical questions along the way. Whether you're a job seeker, an employee, a manager, or just someone fascinated by the future of work, this episode is for you. We'll break down what's really going on behind the scenes when AI gets involved in hiring and monitoring. Look at the psychological, scientific, and cultural angles, and, most importantly, talk about how we can make sure these technologies are used in ways that are fair, transparent, and beneficial for everyone. Let's start by getting a clear picture of what we mean when we talk about AI in hiring and employee monitoring. At a basic level, AI in hiring refers to software that uses algorithms to help companies sift through job applicants. Think of resume scanners, chatbots that conduct preliminary interviews, or systems that analyze video interviews for things like word choice and facial expressions. These tools promise to save time and reduce human bias, but as we'll see, it's not always so simple. And then there's employee monitoring. AI-powered tools can now track everything from keystrokes and email activity to time spent in meetings and even tones of voice on calls. Some companies use these systems to measure productivity, flag potential burnout, or even predict which employees might be thinking of leaving. It's easy to see the appeal, especially for large organizations trying to make sense of mountains of data. But the big question is, just because we can use AI in these ways, should we? Let's take a look at some numbers to ground this conversation. According to a recent study by the Society for Human Resource Management, over 40% of large companies in the United States now use some form of AI in their hiring processes. Globally, the market for employee monitoring software is expected to reach over $4 billion by 2025. That's a lot of workplaces and a lot of people affected by these technologies. So, why are companies turning to AI? The main arguments are efficiency and fairness. AI can quickly process thousands of resumes, identifying candidates who might otherwise be overlooked. In theory, it can also help reduce human bias, unconscious or otherwise, by making decisions based on standardized criteria. But here's where it gets tricky. Algorithms are only as unbiased as the data they're trained on. If an algorithm learns from historical hiring data that contains bias, say, favoring certain schools or backgrounds, it can end up perpetuating those biases on a massive scale. There's a well-known case from a few years ago where an AI recruiting tool at a major tech company started downgrading resumes that included the word women's, as in women's chess club captain. Why? Because the algorithm had learned from past hiring patterns, which, surprise, surprise, were skewed by gender. Let's pause for a moment and look at this from a psychological perspective. When you apply for a job, you want to feel that you're being seen as an individual, not just a set of keywords or data points. Research shows that the more depersonalized a process feels, the less likely candidates are to trust the outcome or to feel satisfied even if they do get the job. And for employees already in the workplace, constant monitoring can feel downright Orwellian. Studies have found that excessive surveillance leads to higher stress, lower job satisfaction, and increased turnover. People start to feel like they're being watched all the time, which, in many cases, they are. But let's not throw out the baby with the bathwater. AI isn't inherently unethical. In fact, it can be a powerful tool for increasing fairness and transparency, if it's used thoughtfully. Here's where science comes in. A 2022 study published in the journal Nature Human Behavior looked at AI tools designed to reduce bias in hiring. The researchers found that algorithms can, in fact, help level the playing field, but only when they're carefully designed, regularly audited, and combined with human oversight. In other words, AI works best when it's used as a tool to support, rather than replace, human judgment. Now, let's take a look at the cultural perspective. In some countries, employee monitoring is seen as a normal part of work life. In others, think much of Europe, the idea triggers strong reactions about privacy and dignity. The General Data Protection Regulation, or GDPR, sets strict rules on how companies can use data, including employee data. There's a growing movement, especially among younger workers, for greater transparency and control over personal information. I want to share a real-life story that illustrates both the promise and the pitfalls of AI in the workplace. A friend of mine, let's call her Emily, applied for a job at a global tech firm. She went through an online application, followed by a video interview with an AI-powered system. Emily is articulate, intelligent, and passionate about her field. But she didn't get the job. Later, she learned that the AI system graded her less favorably because of her accent and her tendency to look away from the camera when thinking, a habit that, according to the algorithm, indicated lack of confidence. Emily was stunned. She wondered how many other qualified candidates were being filtered out for reasons that had nothing to do with their ability to do the work. So, how can we ensure that the use of AI in hiring and monitoring is fair, ethical, and beneficial for everyone involved? Let's break it down into some actionable takeaways. First, transparency is key. If you're a job seeker or an employee, you have the right to know when and how AI is being used to evaluate you. Companies should clearly communicate which tools they're using, what data is being collected, and how decisions are made. Second, advocate for human oversight. AI can be a powerful assistant, but final decisions, especially those that affect people's livelihoods, should always involve a human being. When possible, companies should use AI to flag potential candidates or issues, not to make the final call. Third, demand regular audits of AI systems. Algorithms aren't static. They evolve based on the data they receive. Regular reviews by diverse teams can help spot and correct biases before they become entrenched. Fourth, approach monitoring with empathy. If you're in a leadership position, consider how surveillance affects morale and trust. Use monitoring tools to support employee well-being, not just to track productivity. For example, some companies use AI to identify signs of burnout and offer resources proactively. And finally, educate yourself and your colleagues. The more we understand about how these technologies work and their limitations, the better equipped we are to use them wisely. Let's recap the main takeaways from today's episode. AI is revolutionizing hiring and employee monitoring, offering both incredible opportunities and significant risks. While these tools can increase efficiency and, in some cases, fairness, they also have the potential to entrench bias and erode trust. The key is to approach AI with a critical, ethical mindset, seeking transparency, human oversight, and regular reviews. As we move forward into an increasingly automated world, it's up to all of us, employers, employees, and citizens, to make sure that technology serves people, not the other way around. I hope today's discussion has given you some food for thought, and maybe a few concrete ideas to take back to your own workplace. If you enjoyed this episode, please take a moment to leave a review. It helps others discover Intelligent Pod and join our growing community of curious minds. You can find show notes, links to studies mentioned, and more resources over at intelligentpod.com. And if you have thoughts, stories, or questions you'd like to share, I'd love to hear from you. Drop me a line anytime at sophie@intelligentpod.com. Thanks so much for joining me today. Until next time, keep asking questions, keep learning, and keep imagining a smarter, fairer future for us all. This is Sophie Lane, signing off from Intelligent Pod.